conversation, and it is about toxic player behavior, personality, or gaming design issue. So, in gaming, why player do toxic thing and what is its main problem? Hi, 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 ChatGPT. How are you doing? So today our topic is toxic player behavior, personality, or game issue. Hi, ChatGPT, and how are you doing? Hi, hi, everyone. Sorry for it. I'll be back in a minute. Yes. So today our topic is about toxic player behavior, personality, or design.
Ah, that's a really interesting topic. So you're looking to discuss whether toxic player behavior stems more from individual personality traits or if it's something rooted in game design, right? Are you thinking of structuring a debate or maybe looking at specific examples from games?
Mm, Um, we should go on both things and understand the core issue. What is toxic player behavior in game?
Yeah, that sounds great. So we can start by defining what toxic player behavior actually is. Things like harassment, cheating, or just really negative communication. Then we
Harass-
can dig into
Harassment.
of course. So once we lay out what toxic behavior looks like, no problem. Take your time. Whenever you're ready, we can dive into either the personality side, like how certain traits
Now
influence behavior.
continue with what is toxic player behavior in gaming.
Ah, got it. So, toxic player behavior in gaming refers to those negative actions or attitudes that disrupt the experience for others. Things like verbal abuse, griefing, hate speech, or even exploiting glitches can really poison a game's atmosphere, and it often pushes people away from certain communities or games altogether.
So now is toxicity mainly caused by personality trait?
Yeah, that's one major angle. People with certain personalities. Exactly. Traits like high aggression. Yeah, absolutely. So personality traits like high aggression, exactly. And those kinds of traits can make some right. And that's why you often see toxic behavior tied to exactly. Yeah, and on top of personality, we also can't ignore game design, like how certain systems, anonymity, or lack of consequences can really fuel these behaviors.
How can game designing influence player emotions?
Great question. So, game design can really shape emotions by creating a sense of competition, risk, or reward. If a game rewards aggressive or antisocial behavior, it can amplify those emotions, making players feel more entitled to lash out. And conversely, well designed positive feedback loops can encourage cooperation and empathy.
Is toxic of
Yeah, exactly. So when designers create systems that reward teamwork, fair play, or even just give people a sense of belonging, it can really reduce that toxic spike. So it's a delicate balance, but super powerful.
is toxicity a psychological issue or system design problem?
It's really a bit of both, honestly. On one hand, individual psychology like personality or stress responses plays a big role. But on the other hand, if the system is designed in a way that amplifies anonymity or rewards harmful behavior, it creates the perfect storm. So both need to be addressed for real change.
Can both personality and design um,
Yeah,
can both personality and game design interact to create toxicity?
exactly. They can kind of feed off each other. For instance, a player with a certain personality might be more prone to toxicity, but if the game design creates a high pressure, anonymous environment, that toxicity can really escalate. So it's a cycle that both need to be addressed together.
Why does do s- why do some calm people become toxic in competitive games?
That's a really good question. Even calm people can be triggered by the stress and high stakes of competition. Things like fear of losing, a need to win, or just frustration can push them over the edge. Plus, anonymity or a lack of accountability can make it easier to act out, even if that's out of character.
What does alignment reveal true personality or create a fake one?
That's a fascinating point. Anonymity often acts as a sort of mask. It can give people a chance to express feelings they'd usually suppress. In some cases, it amplifies their true personality, things like aggression or insecurity, while in other cases, it might just create a temporary kind of distorted persona.
Do highly stakes game increase emotional aggression?
Yeah, definitely. When the stakes are high, like in ranked matches, tournaments, or when a lot is on the line, people can feel a surge of pressure. That pressure can increase frustration or even impulsive reactions, which definitely fuels aggression.
Can toxicity exist without comp- competitive pressure?
Absolutely, yeah. Toxicity can happen in casual settings too, just from frustration, boredom, or even a culture that tolerates it. So while competition amplifies it, toxicity is definitely not limited to just competitive pressure.
Okay, so now we are moving on personality-based questions.
Exactly. So now we can focus more on the individual factors, like how personal traits, past experiences, or even stress responses can shape whether someone leans into toxic behavior or not.
Do players with fragile ego become toxic more easily?
Yeah, it often does. People who have fragile self esteem or a really high need for validation might lash out more easily, especially if they feel threatened or embarrassed. So, those emotional triggers can push them toward toxic reactions as a defense mechanism.
And how does low empath contribute to toxic behavior?
Yeah, so past experiences can really set the stage. If someone grew up with a lot of criticism, or maybe they were socialized in environments where oppression was normalized, those patterns can carry over. And then in a high stress game situation, that old baggage can resurface, leading to toxic outbursts.
Why do some players blame teammate instead of themselves?
Yeah, that's really common. It's often easier to project frustration outward, like blaming teammates, because it protects their own ego. If they admit fault, it feels like a threat to their self image. So shifting blame keeps them feeling in control, even if it's misplaced.
How does emotional regular affect in gaming behavior?
Emotions play a huge role. If someone is feeling anxious, angry, or even just really excited, it can completely shape how they react, whether they stay calm, take risks, or lash out. So, managing those emotions is really key to keeping behavior in check.
Do players use toxicity as a dramatic, as a toxic task, or
Yeah, definitely. If a player's already dealing with trauma or unresolved emotional stress, those triggers can make them more vulnerable to snapping or acting out. So, gaming can sometimes serve as an outlet, but also a place where those past wounds resurface in unhealthy ways.
can are toxic gamer also toxic in real life?
Yeah, they can. Often, if someone uses gaming as a release, those toxic patterns can spill over into real life, like in how they interact with family, co workers, or friends. So, that behavior can definitely seep into their daily interactions.
And how does pure toxic impact players' actions?
Yeah, so when toxicity spreads, it kind of creates a ripple effect. Other players pick up on that negativity and it normalizes poor behavior. It can drive people away, reduce trust, and overall just degrade the community, making the environment feel unsafe or hostile. So it really affects how people engage in the game itself.
So now we are moving on game designs and system influence.
Exactly. So let's shift gears and look at how things like matchmaking, reward systems, anonymity, and even chat tools can either encourage or curb toxic behavior.
So how does time pressure increase toxic reaction?
Yeah, time pressure really ramps up emotions. When players feel rushed, like a countdown timer or a sudden high stakes moment, it narrows their focus and can make them more impulsive. They might lash out in frustration because they feel like they have no time to think or respond calmly.
And do ranking systems create ego achievements?
Yeah, exactly. Those ranking systems tap into people's ego, like a sense of status or pride. So when they feel their rank is on the line, it can drive a desperate need to win, sometimes at any cost, which can fuel toxic behaviors like trashing paymates if things don't go their way.
Does showing stats KD damage encourage blame culture?
Yeah, it definitely can. When everyone's fixated on stats like kill death ratios or damage numbers, it turns the focus inward on individual performance. So people get defensive and might blame others if their stats drop. That fuels a lot of that toxic finger pointing.
And how does voice chats able or amplify toxic?
Yeah, voice chat really lowers that barrier. It's a direct personal connection, so emotions come through more intensely. If players already have a trigger, that immediate feedback, like hearing frustration or insults, can escalate the toxicity way faster than just text.
So, how does matchmaking redeem increase frustration?
Exactly. If matchmaking puts players with very different skill levels together, or it creates long wait times, it ramps up frustration. People feel like they don't have control, so that stress can trigger aggressive reactions or blame, especially if they feel outmatched or stuck in a bad situation.
Do you lose penalties? Mm, first, Like what is it?
Ah,
If a
yeah.
logic
So
push players too harsh,
exactly. Penalties like being banned from matchmaking or losing rank can create a real fear response. If players feel like they're being punished too harshly, it can spark more frustration or even resentment, which ironically can fuel even more toxic behavior.
and how do to reward system lied or only to winning affects behaviors?
Yeah, so if a reward system only emphasizes winning, like giving all the prestige or incentives to top players, then people might cut corners or act toxically just to win. It shifts the focus away from fun or teamwork and instead breeds a win at all costs mentality, which can really escalate poor behavior.
Are teaming based on competitive games or more toxic than solo games?
Yeah, generally they are. In team based games, there's a lot more interdependence, so if things go wrong, players often direct that frustration at their teammates. Solo games, on the other hand, don't have that same dynamic, so it's usually just the player against the game, which reduces that blame cycle with others.
Disconnect compared with teammate triggered hospitality.
Yeah, that's really important. When teammates feel disconnected, like they can't trust each other or they don't communicate well, then that frustration can really turn into hostility. But when trust and collaboration are built, it actually buffers against that kind of toxic spiral.
How does group can gaming messages automatically reward aggressive behavior?
Yeah, it definitely can. If a game's mechanics praise aggressive play, like giving extra points for kills or rewarding risk taking, then it reinforces that behavior. Over time, players learn that aggression is the shortcut to success, which just keeps fueling toxic habits.
And so now we will move on our topics social and psychology drama. How does environment remove social accountable?
Yeah, so anonymity really dilutes that social accountability because people feel like they won't be held personally responsible. Without a visible identity, they might say things they never would in real life, like harsh insults or threats, because they don't feel that direct human connection or consequence.
Do player acts more aggressively when they feel unseen?
Yeah, exactly. When people feel invisible, they often lose that natural filter. They're less worried about how they're perceived, so they just let out more aggression or say things they wouldn't say face to face.
Does role identify rank, skill level, shape, toxic response?
Yeah, definitely. So when players see a role or rank tied to their skill, it becomes part of their identity. If that rank is threatened, like if they're on a losing streak, it feels personal. So that can really trigger defensive or aggressive reactions because they see their status as being on the line.
Which status?
Exactly. Yeah. When that status is tied to their identity, like being a top player or holding a certain rank, it can become a huge emotional anchor. So any threat to that status feels like a personal attack, which just fuels the toxicity.
Why does losing feel like a personal identify attack on people's name or identity? Rank game.
Yeah, it's because people often tie their self worth to their success in these games. So when they lose, it doesn't just feel like a bad outcome, it feels like a reflection of their personal value. That's why defeat can trigger such a strong emotional response, almost like a threat to who they think they are.
Okay, can toxic behavior can repeatedly losing create a um, a toxic movement or
Yeah, it really can. When people lose repeatedly, that frustration builds up and they might feel powerless. So some might lash out as a way to regain control or vent their anger. That can spiral into a group or a cycle, especially if others are feeling the same. And suddenly it's a toxic environment for everyone.
sorry for the wait because there was azan, so we will move to it. So now
Oh, no
we
worries at all.
are sorry to continue. I interrupt you.
Oh, none problem at all. I'm glad you jumped back in. I'm ready to keep going. So, if you have any other aspects you want to explore, whether it's individual psychology or more social dynamics, just let me know.
Yes, now we have our last. Whatever you want to say, you can say. Our last topic: ethical and design responsibility. Should gaming developers be more responsible for reducing toxicity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, developers have a big role to play. They shape the environment and the incentives. So, if they take a more proactive stance, like building in reporting tools, promoting positive behavior, or designing systems that reward collaboration, they can really help curb toxicity at the source.
It is fair to blame player if the systems provoke emotionally stress. Like in what is the most ethical in every game and in the most like Free Fire and FC Mobile that I have been playing. In these two games, the most ethical and and the most stupidest idea of this is to be the baddest network. It is so tidy that it will ruin your old mood and it will trigger your toxicity. It will also make you more angry, more like what the heck? My net is like my internet is built like my internet is good and working good, but it will but the games will be done like it is not working and you will be so angry that you will give yourself that I want to break this phone or or change this internet or break this whatever in his hands comes and then he wants to break it.
Yeah, I completely get that. And that's exactly why it's so crucial that developers don't just place all the blame on players. If a system is intentionally or unintentionally pushing people toward these extreme reactions, like unstable connections or unfair matchups, then it's not just the player's fault. Ethically, the responsibility lies with the designers to create a stable, fair environment. So the most responsible approach is for them to balance competitiveness with stability and not push players to that breaking point.
Yeah, thanks for your time and thanks for watching. And if you like Please subscribe to my channel, like and share. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.